So the first thing that you're going to need to build a garden bed at your home is the lumber. What we use at Bellingham Food Bank are Douglas fir 2x8 boards that are 8 feet long. You're going to need 3 of them, and you're going to cut 1 in half. What you're going to use to put the frame of the garden bed together are 2 different types of nails. The first nail we've got here is a 3.5 inch long 16 penny nail. The second is an 1.5 inch long, and this is called a joist hanger nail. The other thing that I have here is rebar, and this is more important on a site that isn't quite level than it is on one that is totally level. But if you've got a garden bed that you're building on a slope, you can pound this into the corners of your garden bed, and that way the whole thing won't shift. This is 18 inches long, and it's 1/2 inch rebar. You're also going to want a framing hammer. Any sort of hammer will probably do, but a framing hammer works really well. A measuring tape here. This is called a square point or transfer shovel, and this is the sort that you'd use to move soil from one place to another. It's not meant for digging, but it's the sort that will work well for transferring from a pile into a garden bed. It's helpful to have a bow rake for this project as well to move soil around, but if you don't have one of these, you can definitely use the square point shovel. The other thing that you'll want to put down before you actually place your garden bed is a couple of large pieces of cardboard. The reason you're doing this is that you want to block any weeds or grass from growing up into your garden, while at the same time putting something down that will biodegrade so that you don't have plastic or other things stuck underneath your garden bed for a long, long time. In 6 months, this will be totally gone. And finally, what you're going to want for your garden bed is a big pile of soil. What we like to use at Bellingham Food Bank is called a 4-way garden mix, and that's a combination of sand and topsoil and various types of composted manure. This is just about 1 yard of soil, and your 4 foot by 8 foot garden bed using 2x10s will take a little bit less than 1 yard. That's generally the amount that you can buy it in though, so you'll just have a little bit extra if you want to do a container garden or something else. What we've found is that the easiest thing to do is actually to construct the frame of your garden bed on a hard concrete surface. We do that because it's nice and level, and that way you'll get a nice rectangular garden bed. What you're going to do once you start building the frame of your garden bed is get it into a rectangle, and then you're going to put a brace on the outside. It's valuable to put this on the outside because then if you ever need to change one of your boards out, you can pull this brace off, add a new board, and then you'll be set. So there are a couple of things that you're going to want to take into consideration when you're trying to find a good place to put your garden. Number one, you want to make sure you have good sunlight. Vegetables take a lot of sunlight to grow. If you've got a little bit of shade, it can be okay, but you want a place that has at least full 6 hours of sunlight in the summer. This spot will work just fine for us. We also want to make sure that garden beds are near a watering source because you want to make sure that you're not dragging a hose all across your yard in order just to water your plants. They need water to live. So if I want the corner of my garden bed to be here, I can pound in a piece of rebar just to mark the place. Then I'm going to measure 4 feet over, which is right here, and I'll pound another piece in. From here we can go 8 feet over, and then 4 feet over from there. The other thing that you're going to think about is that if it's at all possible, your garden should go in a spot that's pretty level. In this situation, we've got a spot that was a planting bed, and then we have sod. And rather than have it half on, half off, we're going to remove this sod. This is not something you absolutely have to do. That's the purpose of the cardboard. But in this situation, it will make things easier and the ultimate garden bed quite a bit more level. So what you want to do when you're removing sod is to take it off in small pieces. Don't try to remove a whole section all at once, because it'll be pretty hard work. What I like to do is stab down into the sod and make little squares, and then you'll be able to remove it by cutting across. So we've got our garden bed here. We're gonna move it into the spot where we ultimately want it to go. I'm gonna put some of this cardboard down just to make sure that no weeds come through. Again, you don't have to do this, but it's a little bit of extra security, and because this will break down fully, we won't worry about it being under the garden bed. If you are going to use cardboard, something that is important is that the cardboard come out just a little bit from the outside of your garden bed, and that will make sure that no weeds come up on the inside of the bed here. So just overlap it a little bit. So like we said earlier, if you want to build a garden bed that's on a little bit of a slope and you want to make sure that your garden isn't going to go anywhere, something that you can do is take a piece of 1/2-inch rebar, put it on the inside corner, especially on the uphill side, and then just pound it in with a hammer. You're going to want to make sure that you put it all the way in below the edge of the box so that it's not a sharp corner that you or your kids might cut yourself on later. So now we're all set to fill our garden bed with soil. It's really pretty basic. All you're going to do is move the pile into the garden bed. So something that we like to do at Bellingham Food Bank is to practice and tell people about something called square foot gardening. And that's a method of gardening that allows you to make a grid out of your 4-foot by 8-foot raised bed, breaking it down into 1-foot square sections. That'll help a lot with learning how to plant things in succession and making sure that your garden stays weed free. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to measure off 1-foot sections and make a little mark with my tape. And then I'm going to do is use these 1.5-inch nails and pound them in on those marks. Not quite all the way, because you're going to want to use a piece of twine and tie it around that. And also, if at a later date you want to take that out, you want to leave a little bit of a headroom there so that you can pulp a nail. And then it's just a matter of stringing out your whole garden. So you attach it on one end, and then you walk it to the other. So now that we've finished leveling our bed and making grids out of our 4-foot by 8-foot garden bed, what we have are 32 individual square feet of the garden. The reason that we do this is that it will help you to both plan your garden and also figure out how to plant in succession. There's obviously a lot to gardening, and you could spend a lifetime learning about it, but that's part of the fun. One of the things that we recommend doing is having a look at our growing guide, which is available for free at www.bellinghamfoodbank.org. In this guide, you'll find lots of information about how many plants you should plant per square feet and lots of other amazing tips. Now we've got a great garden bed. All we have to do is wait for plants and sun. Happy gardening.